So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the IT Experts Podcast, the only podcast to help ambitious IT and tech business owners increase their sales, profit and productivity. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the IT Experts Podcast. And if you're watching this on video, you will find out we are in leafy Bedfordshire today. We are in the summer house in the back garden because we are on Corona lockdown. Yes, as the rest of the world, and it is amazingly, the whole wide world has been affected by this dreadful disease, condition, whatever you want to call it. We are in a place where we are working from home and we're having to adapt and we have to do things a little bit differently. I've got people fighting me for my study. I've got people fighting me for plug socket space. The internet has been absolutely squeezed to death. Now the dog thinks that I'm sitting here having a glass of wine on a what day is it? Tuesday lunchtime. He normally comes in the summer house and chills out with us at the weekend. He now thinks we're doing that. I'm not. I'm recording a podcast. Alfie, you can't come in. Anyway, there's a lot of hype going on. There's a lot of noise going on, and yesterday I deleted the news app off my phone. I know it's really sad. It's very devastating what's going on, and people are getting ill. And I think we need to just take a little bit of time now and just think about these things into perspective. I know there's a lot of posts going out there about how many people die from flu and cancer and all these other things that are going on. But the one thing that I got personally quite affected by at the weekend was just the constant negativity in the press. I hope I'm going to be right on this, but I'm actually quite optimistic about the fact that I think the UK is slightly below the curve on what we think is going to happen with regards to people having this condition and having, fatal symptoms of it, but also where we're tracking with the rest of the world. But I do get really annoyed when people just like to revel on the fact that it's all negative, because guess what? You can't grow a business, you can't grow your mindset, you can't grow your family, your personal or your business life when you've been negative. And it really, for some reason, it really just got me at the weekend. I actually had a bit of a cold as well at the weekend, which wasn't great, so I got a bit of the hump with that as well because I was a bit tired and a bit fed up. But luckily, that came and went quite quickly, and no temperatures, no problems like that at all. My business, like many businesses, has had to change and adapt and think about the different ways. I never thought a month ago, I just moved into a new office suite. I never thought a month ago I'll be sharing my office space with the wife while she's doing her Sainsbury's shopping, and my son who's trying to have a video conference with people in Denmark and things like that. And we'll be locked up at home with limited access to food and shopping and exercise, which is driving me nuts. But I think we're making the best out of it. And it just reminds me that we just need to adapt and do that. And in this podcast, the reason for this podcast is to give you some tactical tips and tricks to help you get through, yes, the coronavirus and what's going to be happening moving forwards and how that's going to affect your IT and your tech business, but also how we deal with change in general and how that kind of works in our own mindsets and what we do. And normally there's a kind of train of two thoughts. You get the process of the whole world. You get people thinking about the whole world is going to collapse. The world's going to, end. We can't do this. We can't do that. We're in a real negative place and we're in a spiral. And then you go onto social media and it's like, oh, what's going on here? And I'll look at these people and look at what's going on. And it kind of drags you down. And I'm not saying for 1 minute that we should ignore that. That's really important that we understand when people are struggling, because I think, mental health is taking a massive toll and a massive back seat right now. And it should actually be at the front seat, because there's lots of people, men, women, mums, dads, all sorts of different people who are struggling with mental health because they just had to really, really quickly change their mentality, change what they're going to be doing and change how they're running their lives. And all of a sudden, you can't just go to Sainsbury's and pick up a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. You can't just go and, pop up to Marks and Spencer's and get a bottle of milk or something without someone questioning you where you're going. And you can't just take the dog out for a walk or go for a run or as easy and as freely as you could before. And I think the way that we adapt that and the way we change that, the way we need to look at our mindsets is from a positive point of view. And we need to look for the opportunities. And from an entrepreneurial point of view, we need to look at how we can serve our clients and how we can do things better and how that kind of pans out. What I've actually done, the way I've structured this particular show, as you will see, only if you're on video, I have a bit of a prompt in front of me here. And what I've done is I've taken the IT Experts model, 5 key elements, which is personal development, business development, people planning, finance, commercial, and business performance. And I've just adjusted the main outcome. So normally under personal development, it's about, how you're going to scale your business. business development is all about increasing your leads. People performance, get the words out, are all about, making sure your people are productive. Finance and commercials, making sure you're making a profit. And business performance is about measuring your business. And I've adapted it for the way that we're working here. So this is a bit of a different spin on an original podcast I did, which was around the 25 key ways to grow your business. So under personal development, I'm going to be talking to just a couple of points today. It's not going to be a massively long episode about how to achieve and how to get a compelling vision for the future. What does your business look like? If you don't think that your business is going to come through this, if you can't think 3, 6, 9, 12 months from now, then you're never going to get out of bed in the morning. Business development for you guys right now, probably not so much that are you going to survive, it's are your clients going to survive? What is going on with your businesses right now? If, for example, you are doing IT support for a whole group of retailers, and I'll pick one that's been affected quite badly, home decor and things like that, might have had a bit of a surge to start with, but right now their shops are shut, restaurants shut, banks shut, garages shut, everything's just kind of shut down. Now you might be in a place where you've got some of your clients there and you've got them and they're folding their businesses and they can't, afford their support. So it's how do we keep them? How do we find new ways of productizing our businesses? And how do we make sure that we find, look to find new clients as well? We're going to touch on some subjects around that. People planning, all of a sudden you're sitting at home. I'm sitting at home in the summer house. Normally when I reach up and get a nice bottle of wine or a beer out of the fridge or something like that. But no, today we've got a coffee and a water, and we've got all the kit here ready to go with it, doing the podcast. So things are a very different place. What are your people doing right now? You might have them on a Zoom. You might have them all working remotely, or you will have them working remotely. When we come out of this, what does that look like? What does the 3-6 months look like? Are you going to keep them working remotely? Do you all of a sudden, do you need that office that you've been working in? All these kind of thoughts go through your head. If you've always do what you've always done, then you're always going to get what you've always got. And you'll go back to what you were doing before and you'll do exactly the same again. And that might have been fine. You might have been running a very, very successful IT or tech-based business. But right now, what are the things that are going to help you get ahead of the crowd? And what I mean by that is how you're going to increase that profit and how you're going to then decrease your cost. People are going to play a really, really key part of this. And I truly believe, the world is never going to be the same place again. And I don't think of that from a bad thing. I actually think of that from quite a positive thing. It's actually given me a lot more time to sit down and chill out a little bit and kind of, spend some time with the family. So look, under finance and commercial, the most important tool right now is your cash flow. If your cash isn't flowing, if you don't know where it's coming from, if you don't know how much you need to get through the coming period, most businesses fail when you actually come out of a recession. I'm not saying we're going into a recession, but I know it's a pretty choppy time right now. But I would be I'd be very surprised if this doesn't, cause a global recession. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know how your business is performing, and you've kind of one of these businesses who's just been working on your bank balance, you're in trouble. Because if you need to make an investment, in time, effort, money, whatever it might be, you're going to need to spend some cash. You need to know where that is. So right now it's about maintaining that profit margin, understanding where your cash is coming from. And then there's always business performances. What gets measured gets done. I've said it once, I'll say it, and probably until there's a last breath in my body. But if we don't measure the business and we don't know how we're tracking the business moving forwards, then how do you know what's working? How do you know? Had to pivot really, really quickly. I've had to cancel 2 events in the last 3 weeks. Now, in my world, the coaching and consultancy space, it takes a long, long time to put an event together before you guys even see anything on LinkedIn or Facebook or email or anything like that, because there's a whole load of automation, there's a whole load of artwork, design, copywriting, making sure we're attracting the right people. It's all very well and good getting hundreds of people on a webinar, but if they're not the right target market that you can help, then it's actually kind of pointless. So it's making sure that we've got all of that information in one place, and all of that information and the copy in the right place. Let's dive into it and let's get into step 1 effectively, as it would be, which is personal development, and having a look at this vision and making sure that we're understanding what we're looking for. So the 3 steps I've got here is about developing a growth mindset, high quality questions, HQQ, whatever you want to call it. My mentors Nick James and Matt Aylwell drum this into me every time I talk to them. And if you ask a question that's a closed question, one that doesn't invite a decent response, you just get challenged out on it. And I think now is the time we need to ask the questions. not can we fix this problem, or can we do this, or can we do that? It's how can we? And I talk to my clients about this an awful lot. How can we possibly find somebody? This morning, for example, I'll give you a real life example happened this morning. I've got a small group on Facebook. Haven't had a lot of interaction, but then again, I haven't actually put much effort into it over the last couple of years because I've been focusing on LinkedIn, which is fine. That's where a lot of my target market are. However, I now want to know how I can create an online platform to help and serve more IT and tech businesses. So I go into my group and I ask the question: who here can help me with particular challenges I've got around Facebook engagement, community structure, things like that? All of a sudden, there's about 15, 20 comments. I wake up in the morning with help and support. And I just want to invite you now to just say to yourself, who is it you need to talk to? Not, do you know anyone? We don't use questions like, do you know anyone? Because if I said, do you know anybody in the cybersecurity space, or do you know who might be able to help me out, or do you know anybody in tech support or software development or CRMs or CTOs, whatever type of work it might be, it's who do you know? And the reason why this is such a powerful question is because when you ask, who do you know, your brain goes around looking for those individuals. If you say, do you know anyone, your brain's got to go into extra hard work to look at, do I know anyone? No, I don't think because no one springs to mind. It might not have been someone you met over the last 3 to 4 days. But if someone said to me, do I know anyone who's really good at health and safety for utility companies, I know exactly who to talk to, because there's somebody there who's specific in my past who know is ace in health and safety on utility companies. So let's just make sure we've got that growth mindset right. And with the growth mindset as well comes a growth plan. From a growth planning point of view, the reason it's so important to have a plan, and a plan is the way that you do things. I get caught up because I talk about systems, processes, and all of that kind of stuff. And I sometimes lose people sometimes because I just use those words because it's so natural for me to talk about a system and a process and a way of doing things. But the key thing here is that when you've got a plan, when you know what your quarterly goals are going to be, transfer that then into the monthly goals. What is it that that you need individuals to do? What is it that you need to do? So all of a sudden, when something like this bloody coronavirus thing's just come up and said, right, you can't go into the office, I get the plan out and I go, what was this quarter's goals? What were the objectives? What were we trying to achieve? How do they now change, bearing in mind I can't get into the office? How do they now change, bearing in mind I can't get somebody to come and work for me? Now, crazily enough, and you can sometimes feel a little bit like it's wrong, the day we were in lockdown, I started my first employee, a guy called Sam, who's a digital marketing apprentice. So he's with me he's just invested his life, or he's working for me, and we're now one end of Luton to the other, but we're on the phone every day. He's getting on really well. We're talking, we're understanding. But I just thought, why should I wait for some virus to affect my business growing when I know that this guy can add value to me? Because that's the help and support that I need in the business right now. Sam is working there, working away. I'm helping him help me with my business because I've just gone on this. Well, why am I going to wait? Why am I going to wait for months for someone to say, oh, I'm all right, I can go back into the office now, to continue to do that? Which is a slight frustration because I've just moved into a new office and I haven't bloody well been in it. But so making sure we've got a plan is also, really important as well. But while we're talking about mindset, the third thing I just want to touch on is, learning and development. So your own learning and development. So yeah, you can sit here and we can watch the news and we can bitch and grime about everything else that's going on. Another one of my coaches, Tony V, he was on a Facebook Live the other day and he just says, look, we just don't watch the news anymore. We don't watch anything negative because it just drags you down. It brings bad energy into you. Now, whether you're a great believer of the energetic world and the power of attraction and all of these kind of things that go on that create the world that we're in, bringing negativity. And it goes back to the point again, you're the average of the 5 people that you most associate with. Now, right now, when I look at the 5 people I'm most associating with, well, one of them's a dog. So let's not get too het up on that. Right now, I think we might need to pause that thing for the moment. The rest of them's the family, which is great. But then the reason that they're here is because we're supporting them, we're caring for them and providing them the life, So I think the 5 most people, I'm going to caveat that on this episode, are the people that you associate with. And that might be outside the office with the people in business and your other friends and relationships, rather than just your family, the dog, the cat, and or the rabbit. So making sure that you are, looking at ways can you upskill your skills. Recently just been looking into improving my sleep actually, and looking into, some people talk about having, doing meditation and how to kind of relax your mind a little bit so that you can actually achieve more in the day. And I'm finding that really interesting, learning about how me actually not being awake more can actually help me become more productive during the day. So I'm really excited about that. I might give you a bit of feedback on that in the coming episode. But look, you get your mind right, you get your planning right, you get your skills and your development. The more you learn, the more you earn at the end of the day. The more you learn, the more you can then pass on to your teams and you can educate them. That helps you leverage. It helps you provide more value to them. They find it more interesting. They've got more exciting work to do. But also, if it's about a technical aspect that you're working on, whether it be in software, whether it be physical kind of hardware or any of that type of support, you're going to be able to add more value to your clients. And right now, it's about value. It's about adding value. It's about nothing more than adding value, creating communities, helping people out. And do you know what? If you help enough other people get what you want, you'll get what you want. I think that's the right way around. If you help enough other people get what they want, then you will get you want. Zig Ziglar said that, I think, or Brian Tracy back in the day. And it's so true right now. Now's the time for giving. Now's the time for saying, look, do you know what? It's going to be a struggle financially, but let's just take that on the chin. And let's just see if you can, and let's just see how we can move forwards, with the growth planning as it would be. Okay, so on to business development, and right now it's about how do we keep those clients? How do we stop any of those clients that we've got going out there, either going down the pan, and potentially you're not going to help them do that. But if there's anything that you can do to support them, to help make sure that they're, you're on the retainers. You've got the project work. Now, fair enough, the project work's going to have to go on hold until we get back into the land of the living again. But things like setting them all up, you've probably spent the last week or 2 weeks, if not more than that, just setting people up working from home. So what we need to do now with the business development side is make sure that we're obviously checking in with our clients, making sure everything's working okay, making sure that if we have got a project, let's keep it going. One of the things that you get kind of caught up with every now and then is people say, well, we'll wait till the coronavirus is over. Well, why wait? Because at the end of the day, the project's still got to be completed. When we were, signing up the project at the beginning from a software point of view, for example, if you were signing up that project, it needed to be done then. If we come out of Corona tomorrow and we get back in the business, guess what? It's still going to need to be done. Still going to need to be done. Now, if we've got time allowances, we've got people allowances, we can help and support and do that remotely. We can operate our business. So it's all looking at the positive way that we can do things. So, make sure your clients' needs are dealt with. Make sure that obviously the contracts, then we need to look at how can we support them and what is it the reason, and is there a lower package that we can put them on rather than letting them walk out the door and then signing up with somebody at a cheaper rate. And this is a time when we need to look at your USP, and we need to look really carefully about what it is that you're doing differently out there right now. What are the things that you're doing? Look back from a helicopter point of view. What are you doing in your business right now to helping your clients out? Now, there's 3 things that we look at when we talk about the USP. We look at what sector-specific expertise have you got. We look at what technical expertise do you have. So, for example, you could potentially work in legal or logistics. Your specific technical expertise could be around software development. It could be around cabling. It could be around Cisco servers. It could be around anything like that. And then the third thing is about looking at your experience in that field, delivering amazing projects, services, or solutions for your clients. That is your USP. That is how you differentiate yourself from your competitors. When we mix that in with a certain way that we actually put together product, services, and solutions so that you can't be compared with on price, which is something we do in the IT Experts Mastermind group, that makes a really, really special offering for you as an IT and a tech-based business, because it means that you are now special. You're now in a niche as much as you can be in a niche. You're in an expertise, and we are the only people who do this. So if this is what you want in this sector with these expertise, listen to these people about how bloody great we're doing at that. Boom, that's your USP. That's how you kind of sort that problem out. Right now, you possibly going to struggle to get on the phone, close a £50,000 software deal, bringing in a load of new servers at the local home base store or wherever it might be or whatever it is, because you're not there. You can't get out. You can't go and meet people. You can't go and have that physical connection. But it doesn't stop you reaching out to people. It doesn't stop you having a lead generation process and nurturing those clients, putting out some great content. Use LinkedIn to put out some great content. Make sure it's all feeding on your back of your website. Make sure that it drives them back to your model, drives them back to how great you are, what really good services and solutions that you've got, and how that kind of all works, and makes it, builds in that credibility. Remember, what's the sector, what's your kind of technical expertise, and then how are we actually using that moving forwards in terms of all your testimonials. So looking at your lead generation, looking at your value base, trying to resonate with what problems that they've got in their marketplace right now, putting out some content, video, blogging. It could be some PowerPoint slide shares. I'll give you a quick tip. Don't use SlideShare on LinkedIn. Just put the PowerPoint presentation on. Then you can slide across and it looks really, really nice. Go and have a look on my profile if you want to know how that's done. But it's great little tips and tricks you can help doing that. And then just remind yourself, the last bit in the business development is about reminding yourself of that customer journey. Your customer journey has changed. Whether you like it or not, your customer journey has changed. And also the buying patterns are now going to change. And we need to review what it was before and what it looks like now. People are going to have different buying patterns. As I said before, you are going to get some businesses who are going to go back to work and they're not even going to go back to the office because they're going to go, I don't need to. What do I need to go back to the office for? I've been working perfectly well for the last 2 months with my remote team. We've delivered excellent customer service. We're now online. Thanks very much. I might need a new router to make sure we've got some good update. But what's happening with their security? What's happening with their internet? I'll tell you now, I don't know this for certain, but I'm sure there are some cyber hackers out there having a whale of a time right now getting into people's remote working when they're not on VPNs and things like that. How are you helping your clients, solve those kind of problems? Think outside the box. What is it that they're doing now that's differently? What do you think they're going to be doing in 2 months' time, 1 month time, 2 months' time, 3 months' time? And then how's their world going to look different in 6 months' time when we're all back together? Again, this is working right now in this space in, March 2020, for the coronavirus, but just have a little think about what that looks like, in any other disruption within your business. Okay. So people planning, right? Literally overnight, someone said you can't sit and work with your team anymore. And this has caused a massive problem for quite a few businesses. We planned this quite a bit. When I was back in the day working in utilities, we were, we used to do disaster recovery plans. We used to make sure, and we never ever thought it'd happen. We always used to laugh at them. We used to go, yeah, all right, never. Of course, we'll always be able to get in the office. Why would we never ever be able to get in the office? The world can't get in its bloody office right now. Not London, not Luton, not the UK, the whole world. People I talk to thousands of miles away on a daily basis, they can't get in their offices. They can't get out. They are in exactly the same problem. And I hope to God, while I'm alive, this never happens again. But there's a pretty good chance that you never know how these things sort of happen or how they've spread and all the other wonderful conspiracy theories. But right now, your people are not where they need to be. How do we know what they're doing? Okay, they're on Zoom. We've had them on Zoom. We get them in a little bit of a phone call. But are they been as productive? Now, there's two trains of thought here. Number one, you're going to get people who have kind of like said, oh, brilliant, working from home. They're going to go and get a paintbrush and the house is going to look absolutely wonderful by the time we've finished. And the rest of them are going to actually be more productive because they're going to be focused. They're not going to be distracted by all the tittle-tattle and the water cooler talking and all that kind of good stuff in the office. They're going to be looking really, really carefully about how that's going to kind of work. So, again, with the people side of things, what are your people doing and how are you setting them up to work remotely? Assigning accountability and team targets is critical. It doesn't matter whether you're sitting in the office. It doesn't matter whether you're sitting at home. You need to be knowing what they need to be doing. You need to be having that expectation exchange. Why are they producing this much work or why are they not producing this much work? You need to know what their measures are. By the way, Jake, I'll use my son's name. This is what you need to go and do by the end of the week. This is what we want you to achieve. These are your outputs. This is what we need. This is how we're going to measure your performance. Guess what, right? When you come back, I don't know how your systems work, but if you give people a pay rise, you give people a bonus, you give them anything, any information or any incentives like that, they're going to want it measured. How are you measuring their time right now when they're not next to you? Oh, you say, no, I've had a good week, guys. Yeah, we've met these targets. But what are they doing? Still have one-to-ones with your people while they're abroad. They shouldn't be abroad, but if they are abroad, then They might be a problem, mightn't they? Because you might have remote teams, of course. But, have a look at how you're assigning that accountability. If you've got an IPR, an independent performance review, individual performance review, sorry, how are you measuring that? Make sure you still have those one-to-one calls rather than just the group calls all of the time. And then look at ways that how can you make people more, more productive. Now, if they're not being productive, how do you know they're not being productive? And then offer some support. They might be getting distracted by the bloody social media or the news or what's going on. They might actually have family issues right now. Someone I was speaking to yesterday, they know somebody who's in their family who's actually got the coronavirus. So obviously we hope that's a speedy recovery. But, you just remember now's the time for business leaders to be a little bit kind of, step back and just go, hang on a minute, let's just think about this for a minute and be a bit self-aware. And I think the one thing, being a bit transparent here, that I've learned, in the last couple of weeks is about thinking about other people a little bit more rather than just kind of charging around thinking about yourself, which is a nice trait to have. So think about their productivity. Think about, are they producing the right results? But then when you go into them and ask them about producing more or not, make sure, number one, have they got the skill set to do it? Have they got the technology to do it? Are they performing? Have they performed at that level before? All of this kind of standard leadership stuff that we teach through the program. So have a think about that. And then, regular effective communications. So whether you're on Skype, on Zoom, on the phone, on, a group call, whatever it might be, make sure that you still got your agenda. Make sure you still got your outcomes. Make sure you still know what you want to achieve. Make sure that you still have all of the right information that you need to give to those people and make it effective. If it's a Zoom call and it's booked for an hour and it doesn't need to be an hour, don't make it an hour. Make it 40 minutes. Make it 30 minutes. But just because it's for that length of time doesn't mean to say you've got to fill that time up. Make sure that your communication's crisp. Make sure it's clear. Make sure that if you need to follow it up in writing, all these standard things. But again, we go back to the expectation exchange. How do you know that other people have understood what you're asking them to do? How do you know, or how do they know what it is that you're trying to achieve? And just make sure you've got that really tight as a business leader so you can understand kind of how that kind of thing's working in their heads as well. Okay, finance and commercial. The most important thing right now is we've got money in the bank. It's quite simple if you've got money in the bank. How do we know we've got money in the bank? Well, the one way we know we've got money in the bank, most people do, is they open up their banking app and it looks like they've got money in the bank. So yes, I've got money in the bank, I've got a healthy business. No, wrong. Cash flow is the only way you're going to find out how healthy your business is. For years, I've done a monthly cash flow. And that got me to don't mind sharing, a 6-figure consulting business, which is pretty good. Most people are quite happy with that. Now we're heading into the multi-6 figures. It's not going to do it anymore. Not going to do it anymore. It needs to be a weekly cash flow. Right now, as soon as this thing happened, as soon as the coronavirus came out, first thing I did was went into my cash flow and I thought, am I all right? What's going on? I lost, a good couple of 5-figure sums, not 5-figure sums, a couple of 4-figure sums actually in the first couple of weeks. Not lost income, but deferred income because some projects weren't going to get finished off. And that's caused me an issue. That's really caused me an issue. However, because I've got a plan on my cash flow, I know where that money's coming back in. I know where it's going out, and I know now what I need to focus on. So having a weekly cash flow, and I talked about this the other week in one of the 60-second sandboxes. You got to know where your cash is coming from. You got to map it all off. Yeah, you might have Xero and you might have QuickBooks and you might have Sage and all of those other things, but there really is no substitute for manually putting this into a spreadsheet and really understanding where your business is in terms of cash flow. What sort of storm can you weather? Can you bring in some investment? I'm looking at investing heavily right now in the online market, which means if I need to go and buy webinar software, which I do, how much is that going to cost? I've got to buy, some more artwork. I've got to buy lots of different things and I've got to invest in it to create. Now, if I haven't got the cash, I'm not going to be able to invest it. If I know where my cash is and I know when it's coming and I can move some of the stuff around, then that makes it an easy decision for me to move around whether I can invest or not. Just remember that most businesses go out of business after they've come out of a recession, not before it, afterwards, because they've spent all their money and they've all suddenly realised they've done this to pedal standing still, and then the world's a different place and they've had to adapt and change and do things slightly differently. And this is really important. So understanding your cash flow, I could kind of stop right now. I'm not going to, but I could kind of stop right now and say that's the most important thing, because that's where your barometer of what your health of your business is going to look like. You know where your costs are coming in, where your cash is going out, and try and get as many people as you can on automated payments. That's such a key thing. because then you just don't have to worry about it. And you know that it's just coming in, they know it's coming out, and it just helps to create that little bit of certainty around there. The next thing under the cash flow and under the finance and commercial, obviously we want to make sure that we've got a profitable business. How can we sell and provide and serve more to our existing clients? Now, you might have some right now that are, in trouble and their businesses are going down. In that case, you kind of need to go into a preservation mode on what is it that I need to downsell them. Can I downsell them something to keep them still as a loyal customer? Then when things pick up, we can pick them back up again. But looking at remote working, looking at the cybersecurity, issues that we've got going on right now, looking at efficiencies, looking at online businesses, looking at businesses that weren't online that are now online, looking at the way of the world in the next 2, 3, 6 months time. What can you offer to your clients that's going to help them deliver a better service to their clients? What can you do to deliver them a better service? How are you going to package that up? And again, create an innovative package. How can you put something together that doesn't look like other IT MSP companies are doing, that doesn't look like other software developers? I'm a strong believer that there's always an opportunity out there. You just got to go and look for it. If you sit there and wait for it to come, guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up in the price comparison site, and you are just going to end up sitting there just being beaten down on price because Joe Blogs down the road is doing exactly the same to you. That's absolute rubbish. If you accept that, then that's crazy. And to be quite frank, I'm surprised you listened to this length of the podcast. But the mindset that we need is a growth mindset. It's a positive mindset. If it's we can do this, let's grow our businesses. Let's do something differently. I talk about this quite a bit. I refer to him quite a bit. But Charlie Mullins, I met him a few years ago, Pimlico Plumbing, most richest plumber in the world. He went out there, he wanted to plumb for the stars, he wanted to plumb for royalty. He didn't want to plumb for little Mrs. Blogs around the corner with a £30 leaking tap. And he's done that, and he's now got branches all over the UK. And I think he's probably doing all right in this problem here, actually, because toilets and taps still break when this happens. So he needs to still get out there, and I'm sure he would have dubbed himself as the 6th emergency service, or however many there are right now, including the Coast Guards, I think. But he's got a place over in Marbella. He does exactly the same. So how are you going to innovate your business? What products, services and solutions do you need to do to innovate your business and make those packages really, really different, so that people can, resonate with it, and it just fits the bill for what they need. Think about what they need. Not what do they want, what do they need right now? And then finally, business performance. If we don't track our businesses, if we don't track what's working well, we don't identify our KPIs, how do we know whether our marketing spend's right, that we just talked about in the cash flow? How do we know that it's a good idea to be on LinkedIn rather than on Facebook looking for clients? How do we know where we need to be to generate our business? And also, so how do we know when we've got a client who's got a new product, service and solution? How do we know that they're changing the way that their businesses are working? How do we know that we can fit that service and that solution into exactly what they want? And what we've got to do here is we've got to think about what they need, not necessarily what they want. It's about what they need. That's really the most powerful buying motive, because if you can fix solutions to help people get out of overwhelm because they need it, it's a much better place for everybody to be. But more importantly as well, think about how, if you deliver a project, and it might be, for example, it might be to install a load of cabling and a router and a whole load of desktops. How do you know you made money on that project? And this is kind of coming out of coronavirus now, but when you're back out on site, how do you know that you're making that money? How do you know the money that you budgeted? So you probably put a budget together because it's the same budget and the same figures you've used for years. But all of a sudden, you now need to think about, well, hang on a minute. If I'm going to take my business to the next level, did I actually make money out of that? Did the engineer spend too long? Were the materials a bit more expensive? If you don't know, if you don't reconcile your costs per project, per work stream, down in your cash flow, how do you know if you're going to make any money? And I'm sure that if you're in, having any struggles right now with some of the money that you've got in the business, that could potentially be some of the reasons why that is because you're not measuring the business and the performance of that. So setting and understanding your KPIs is really important. And again, when you're doing that reporting, just make sure that you are looking at, don't come up with tons and tons and tons of KPIs. Key performance indicators are, for example, how many projects have we signed up this week? What's the value of the projects? How many routers are we servicing? How many software projects are we signing up? How many do we need? How many prospects do I need to talk to close them through? And all of those kind of good things. So it's about understanding what they're like. And finally, not a lot of this going on right now, but when we get out of here, by God, we're going to have some celebration, aren't we? Crikey. We don't ever talk that much about the good stuff that we do. We don't ever talk that much about how great we are, what we do in business, and how amazing we are. And this goes right the way back to the beginning of this podcast. Get yourself in that positive mindset. What is the thing that we need to do? And what are the things that we need to celebrate and say thank you to people? You've got people in there. We're all being very grateful to the NHS right now because they're helping out at a massive time of need. But in business, who's been helping you out? Who's been going over and above, working late, working in the early mornings, working around their family? It's really, really hard to work from home. It's really hard to work from a flexible point. Some people will love it, and some people will find it a bit of a challenge. And we need to make sure that we celebrate that success and we thank them for what they're doing. And whether that be a pat on the back and a quick thank you, or a thank you card, or a box of chocolates, or anything, send it out in the post. Think of people who you can just say to them, look, thanks very much for helping me out at this time of trouble. We've got our way through it. This is now our plan. We're going to do this moving forwards, and then that's going to help the business out, and it's going to help you out as well. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, I've just structured it out of the IT Experts Accelerator. What I just welcome you to do now is go over and have a look at the website. Check out some of the resources we've got over there. We've got ebooks over there. We've got some short courses over there. We've got access into our IT Experts community. We've obviously got the podcast, which is what we're talking to on that right now. And it's all about value-based content to help you out in your IT and your tech business. Now, if there's anything that you want a hand with, there's anything you want to have a chat, or you want to just run something through, then right now, while we're in this lockdown period, and my diary is slightly freer than it was a couple of weeks ago now, go over onto LinkedIn and just message me and just say, Ian, can I just have a chat? I just want to talk to you about some stuff. And, we can book a free 15-minute call and we can just run through and I can help you out. No sales pitches promised. It's just going to be, how can we help you out in this time of need? So right now, if there's anybody that you can think of that would be benefiting from listening to this podcast, then please forward it over to them. And if you want to leave a review on any of the platforms of your choice, that would be absolutely amazing. The beer's still sitting here. It's not time for a beer o'clock yet, but I will wish you all the very success in the coming weeks and months ahead. I hope you and your family are safe and well. And again, as I mentioned before, if there's anything I can do to help you out, then please let me know. And also, if there's any subjects you want to cover off on the podcast, you want me to cover off and go into a little bit more detail, then do that as well. And I'm going to catch up with you soon. So look after yourself, take care, and be kind to each other. All the best now. So thanks very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, then please remember to subscribe, rate and review. I'd really appreciate that. And also check the show notes out for all the latest developments at the IT Experts Growth Academy. If we haven't already, then let's connect on LinkedIn, YouTube and over at our website at innovatetosuccess.com. Until next time, you look after yourself and I'll catch up with you soon.